You ever come home from a party or a family dinner, maybe even just a long work meeting, and instead of feeling all energized and buzzed, you just feel completely wiped out? That's what we're digging into today, the really surprising science behind why being social can be so darn tiring. I mean, it's a feeling pretty much everyone knows, right? You've just left a get-together, and maybe you even had a good time, but instead of feeling great, you just feel spent, mentally fried. So what is actually going on there?
Well, there's a great name for it, a social hangover. And yeah, it comes with all the classic symptoms. That mental fog, a deep sense of exhaustion, maybe you're a little bit irritable. If any of this is ringing a bell, you are definitely not alone. And it's not some personal flaw, it's a real thing with deep roots in our psychology.
Okay, so what's the first big clue in solving this mystery of social drain? Well, it all starts with one of the most classic ideas in psychology, that fundamental difference between introverts and extroverts. What's so fascinating is how the psychologist Hans Eysenck looked at this. He said, this isn't just about being shy versus being outgoing. Nope, it's way deeper than that. It's all about your brain's relationship with energy. Just ask yourself this one question: where do you go to recharge your battery?
And this right here perfectly illustrates that core idea. For extroverts, social interaction is literally like plugging into a charger. They get energy from all that buzz and stimulation. But for introverts, that exact same environment is what drains the battery. The only way to recharge is to get some peace and quiet.
Now you might be thinking, okay, so which one am I? Well, the truth is, most of us, about 68%, are actually ambiverts. We fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. But for the roughly 16% of people who are true introverts, that energy drain is a really powerful, defining part of life. But this whole personality thing, it's not just a feeling. It actually has a fascinating biological basis. So let's take a little peek inside the brain to see what is really going on that creates this split. This brings us to what's called Eysenck's arousal theory. And the main idea here is that each of our brains has this natural, default level of activity. And kind of like Goldilocks, our brains are always searching for the level of stimulation that is just right so we can perform at our best.
So according to the theory, an introvert's brain is naturally over-aroused. It's already running at a high baseline. An extrovert's brain, on the other hand, is chronically under-aroused. It starts from a lower baseline and is actively looking for outside stimulation to get up to that optimal level. So here's the crucial point. When an introvert goes to a loud party, their already revved up brain gets pushed past its optimal zone into total overload. But an extrovert at that same party, they're just getting their under-aroused brain up to its sweet spot. See, they're both just trying to get their brain into that perfect performance zone. And what's really cool is that modern science totally backs this up. An fMRI study published by the NIH actually watched brain activity during complex tasks, and they found that extroverts had to mobilize more brain resources just to get going, which totally supports this idea that they're starting from a lower baseline. Introverts' brains are pretty much already revved up and ready to go.
This difference is also tied to a little chemical called dopamine. Extroverts have a more active dopamine reward system, so they get a genuine chemical buzz from new things, meeting new people, taking risks. But for introverts, that same level of stimulation doesn't feel like a reward. It feels punishing, and eventually just plain tiring.
But hang on. This isn't just a story about introverts. Even for the most outgoing extrovert out there, socializing is still work. There's this hidden mental workload that can absolutely drain any one of us.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single social interaction requires all this invisible labor. You're constantly reading nonverbal cues, you're feeling empathy for other people, you're making a million tiny decisions about what to say next, all while feeling this pressure to be on. A huge piece of this social work is something called mental masking. This is basically the act of putting on a persona. It's smiling when you're actually feeling anxious, or nodding along when you're totally confused, just to seem normal and fit in.
This could mean forcing yourself to make eye contact when it just doesn't feel natural, or actively trying to stop yourself from fidgeting, or even just copying the facial expressions of the person you're talking to. This constant self-monitoring is incredibly draining. It's like running a background app on your phone that's just eating up all your battery. And this is not some rare thing. A recent survey found that a staggering 2/3 of people feel like they have to mask their true emotions at work just to seem professional. Think about that for a second. That is a massive amount of collective energy being spent every single day
just on this social performance.
Okay, so what do we do with all this information? Well, the key takeaway here is to start thinking about your social energy like the battery on your phone. You have to know its limits, and you've got to learn how to manage it.
Look, protecting your energy isn't antisocial, it is essential self-care, and it starts with setting boundaries. It is absolutely okay to say no to an invitation or to be the first one to leave a party. You can also literally schedule alone time, treat it like a doctor's appointment you can't miss, and finally, get to know what situations drain you the fastest. That way you can go in prepared.
At the end of the day, respecting your own needs is not a weakness, it's a strength. When you finally understand your own natural rhythm, you can stop fighting against your own biology. This lets your mind truly rest and restore so that when you do choose to be social, you can show up as your more present, authentic, and engaged self.
And that leaves us with this really powerful thought. For a lot of people, the ultimate goal isn't that dopamine buzz from a crowded room. It's the quiet depth you find in a meaningful one-on-one connection. It's a shift from chasing rewards to seeking meaning. And that is a strength that is entirely worth protecting.